The skies above Erebus remained empty and silent, as they had for generations. The stars glittered coldly, distant and unforgiving to the human colony that clung to survival on this harsh planet. It had been 200 years since the Valyrian Collective had declared humanity too dangerous to exist among the peaceful species of the galaxy. 200 years since Earth had fallen. Administrator Juwu walked slowly through the food storage facility, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous room that should have been filled with supplies. Instead, row after row of shelves stood half empty, a stark reminder of their latest agricultural failure. Another failed harvest, she sighed, running her fingers over the inventory log. The numbers didn't lie. They had enough to last perhaps 3 more months before rationing would need to become even more severe. As colony administrator, Juwu carried the burden of 3,000 souls, supposedly the last humans alive in the universe. She tapped her tablet, reviewing the colony's resources for the 10th time that day. Water recycling was operating at maximum efficiency. Power generation was stable, thanks to the geothermal vents they'd tapped decades ago. But food remained their greatest challenge. Erebus was not kind to Earth crops. Administrator. A young assistant approached hesitantly. The council is waiting for your report. Juwu nodded wearily. Tell them I'll be there shortly. The council chamber was a simple room carved into the side of the mountain that sheltered their colony. 7 elderly faces looked up as she entered, their expressions already grim from years of difficult decisions. The northern fields yielded 30% less than projected. Juwu announced without preamble. We need to expand the hydroponic levels immediately. Elder Q, head of the council, shook his head. We lack the resources for expansion. Perhaps it's time we discussed reducing the population again. A chill ran through the room. The last reduction had been 15 years ago. Volunteers who walked out into the bitter cold of the Erebus winter rather than consume resources the children would need. Juwu had been only 12 then, watching her grandfather leave on his final walk. No, she said firmly. We find another way. We always have. The meeting ended with no solutions, only a heavier weight on Juwu's shoulders. She walked through the main colony tunnel, nodding to colonists who bowed respectfully as she passed. None of them knew how dire their situation had become. That evening, as Juwu sat alone in her office reviewing weather patterns, an urgent knock came at her door. Engineer Hyun burst in without waiting for permission, his eyes wide with excitement. Administrator, I found something you need to see. Hyun was tall and thin with clever hands that could fix almost anything. He'd been working on the ancient communication array for months, trying to improve its range, though there was no one out there to hear them. What is it, Hyun? Juwu asked, too tired for his usual enthusiasm. I was doing a deep system scan of the comm array's memory banks, he said, placing his tablet on her desk. Look what I found buried in the old transmission logs. The screen showed a series of coordinates and fragmented messages dating back to the early days of the colony. These are signals from other colonies, Hyun said, his voice dropping to a whisper as if speaking a forbidden truth. Look at the timestamps and trajectories. They continued for decades after we lost contact with Earth. Juwu stared at the data, her heart racing. Other colonies might have survived the purge. Not just might have, Hyun said. Almost certainly did, and based on signal strength and decay patterns, some could be within our reach. For the first time in years, Juwu felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope. Don't tell anyone yet, she ordered. We need to verify this before we raise expectations. For 3 days, Juwu and Hyun worked in secret, analyzing the old data and recalibrating the array to search for any current signals. They found nothing but static and stellar noise. On the 4th day, as Juwu was about to leave the communications center, an alert sounded. The colony's early warning system had detected something at the edge of their star system. Sensor analyst Tahoe rushed to his station, fingers flying over the controls. His face, reflected in the blue light of his screen, transformed from concentration to disbelief. "It can't be," he whispered. "What is it?" Ju demanded, moving to his side. "Unknown vessel approaching," Tahoe said, his voice trembling. He looked up at her, eyes wide. "Administrator, it bears human signatures, the engine configuration, the communication protocols. They're ours." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. After generations alone in the darkness, after believing they were the last of their kind, a ship was approaching. A human ship. "Alert the council," Ju said quietly, "and prepare the welcome protocols we never thought we'd use." As she stared at the blinking light on the sensor display, Ju understood that everything was about to change. The long silence of humanity's exile was ending, and it had started with the arrival of one warship. The HSS Vindicator broke through Erebus's cloud cover like a phantom from the past. Its massive hull gleamed dully in the pale sunlight, battle scars clearly visible across its surface. The colonists gathered at the designated landing area, staring up with a mixture of fear and wonder. None of them had ever seen a starship before. Such things existed only in the stories passed down through generations. Ju stood at the front of the crowd, her face carefully neutral despite her racing heart. The colony's small security force flanked her, their homemade weapons pointless against the warship hovering above them. "It's actually landing," whispered Elder Q beside her. After all these years, the Vindicator settled onto the flat plain with surprising grace for such a massive vessel. It towered over the assembled colonists, its shadow cooling the air around them. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then, with a hydraulic hiss, a ramp extended from the ship's belly. 4 figures descended. They wore uniforms unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. Sleek, dark materials with insignias that belonged to a military that hadn't existed for 2 centuries. 3 carried weapons at their sides. The 4th, who walked slightly ahead, was unarmed. "That's their captain," Hyun murmured, squinting to see better. The visitors stopped 10 meters from Ju. The leader stepped forward, removing his helmet. His face was weathered but not old, with alert eyes that assessed everything around him. "I am Captain Minho Kang of the human stellar ship Vindicator," he announced, his voice carrying easily across the distance. "We come in peace to Erebus colony." A murmur ran through the crowd. How did these strangers know the name of their home? Ju stepped forward. "I am Administrator Ju. Welcome to Erebus. We didn't know any other humans survived beyond our colony." The captain's face showed a hint of a smile. "We've been looking for you for a long time." The initial meeting moved to the colony's council chamber. Captain Kang brought only one officer with him, a woman named Sora who served as his second in command. The colonists could not stop staring at their visitors, at the crisp uniforms, and the confident way they carried themselves. "Your colony was on our original survey list," Captain Kang explained, accepting a cup of Erebus's bitter tea. "But we've been searching systematically, and yours was 17th on our navigation charts." "There are 16 other colonies?" Elder Q asked, his voice cracking. "We've confirmed 8 so far," Sora replied. "Some were abandoned. Some had thrived, like yours." Ju leaned forward. "But how is this possible? Earth fell 200 years ago. You should be—" She hesitated. "Dead." Minho finished for her. "My crew and I entered stasis shortly after Earth fell. The Vindicator was part of the last defense fleet. When the battle was lost, our admiral ordered a handful of ships to escape and preserve what was left of humanity." Sora added, "We've been awake for only 11 years, searching for survivors since we emerged from stasis." "How did you avoid detection for so long?" Ju asked. "The Valyrian patrols were everywhere in the early years. We lost contact with the other colonies because any transmission brought their ships." Captain Kang exchanged a look with Sora before answering. "The Vindicator carries experimental technology that was being tested when the war began. We can mask our signature, appear as space debris or natural phenomena to most scanning systems." He placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic map of the galaxy, with several points highlighted. We've gathered intelligence suggesting other human outposts survived, here and here, he said, indicating the bright spots. But more importantly, we've discovered something about our history that changes everything. The room grew quiet. The story we were told about our exile. It's built on lies. Minho said flatly. Humanity wasn't exiled because we were deemed dangerous to galactic peace. That was the cover story. Ju frowned. What's the truth then? We had developed technology that threatened certain powerful interests within the Valyrian collective. Sora explained. Specifically, faster-than-light communication that didn't rely on their controlled networks. Information control is how they maintain power, Minho continued. We were making that impossible, so they eliminated us, not because we were violent, but because we were about to make them irrelevant. Hyun, who had been silent until now, spoke up. But the history archives say we attacked them first. Fabricated, Sora said. A false flag operation to justify the response. We have proof. Ju stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Vindicator resting on their landing field. Colonists had gathered around it at a respectful distance, still marveling at its presence. What do you want from us? She asked without turning around. We need people, Minho said simply. Engineers, scientists, anyone willing to join us. The Vindicator was designed for a crew of 300. We have 47. Join you for what? Elder Q demanded. Captain Kang's eyes hardened. To find the rest of humanity. To tell them the truth. And eventually, to reclaim what was taken from us. Ju turned back to face him. You're talking about war. I'm talking about justice, Minho replied. And about survival. The Valyrians won't leave any of us alone forever. They've simply been taking their time, believing we're no threat scattered across the stars. We have until dawn, Sora added. Then we must leave, with or without volunteers. Ju looked at the council members, seeing their fear, their hope, and their uncertainty mirroring her own. The Phantom ship had brought more than just visitors. It had brought a choice that would change their world forever. 63 colonists from Erebus joined the Vindicator's crew. Ju watched her home shrink to a speck through the observation deck window, wondering if she had made the right choice in coming aboard. She had left Elder Q in charge, promising to return with either good news or a warning. The ship hummed beneath her feet as it accelerated away from Erebus. Captain Minho had explained their first destination, Helios Colony, hidden in an asteroid belt 3 weeks' journey away. Administrator. Engineer Hyun approached, looking more excited than she had ever seen him. You should see the engine room. It's incredible. Ju smiled despite her worries. Hyun had been like a child since boarding, fascinated by every piece of technology the ship offered. Later, she promised. Right now, I need to understand our mission better. She found Captain Minho on the bridge, studying navigation charts with Sora. Helios Colony has been difficult to contact, he explained when Ju asked about their destination. They'd gone dark deliberately. We only know they exist because we intercepted a supply drone they sent to a mining outpost. 3 weeks later, the Vindicator slipped into the asteroid belt that Helios called home. The colony wasn't visible at first. Only when they came within 10 kilometers did Ju realize the largest asteroid had been hollowed out, with small ports and sensor arrays disguised as natural formations. Impressive, Hyun whispered beside her. They've made themselves invisible. It took 2 days of careful negotiation before Helios allowed a small party from the Vindicator to dock. The colony's interior surprised everyone. Vast chambers had been carved from the rock, illuminated by artificial sunlight. Gardens spiraled up the walls, and the residents moved with the cautious efficiency of people who had survived by being careful. Subin, Helios Colony's leader, was a small woman with watchful eyes. She listened to Captain Minho's story without comment, then showed them through the deep tunnels of her domain. We've survived by staying hidden, she explained. Our asteroid mining provides everything we need, and we have protocols to scatter if detected. When Minho spoke of uniting the colonies, Subin frowned. Movement draws attention. Safety lies in stillness. The Vindicator left Helios with only 12 volunteers, far fewer than they had hoped. Nova Terra, their second destination, proved more welcoming. The colony existed on a harsh planet with toxic air but fertile soil. Its people had developed advanced agricultural techniques and environmental adaptation methods. "We can feed thousands more than our current population," boasted Nova Terra's representative as he showed them fields of crops growing under protective domes. "But we've had no one to feed." 40 colonists from Nova Terra joined the Vindicator, bringing seeds and agricultural knowledge with them. Horizon Colony was the most surprising. Built from the wreckage of a downed Valyrian science vessel, its people had learned to use alien technology. They lived in structures that seemed to defy physical laws, with energy systems beyond human design. Doyun, Horizon's young leader, greeted the Vindicator's crew with enthusiasm. "Finally," he exclaimed, "we've been sending out coded signals for decades, hoping someone would hear." Horizon contributed 30 members to the growing crew, along with modifications to the Vindicator's systems that improved its speed and stealth capabilities. As the final month of their journey began, Captain Minho called a meeting of all colony representatives in the ship's main assembly room. Ju sat between Subin from Helios and Doyun from Horizon, aware of the tension between them. "We must decide our next course of action," Minho announced. "Do we continue gathering survivors or move to the next phase?" Subin stood immediately. "More searching, more hiding. We've survived by staying invisible. Drawing attention to ourselves now risks everything we've built." "And achieved what?" "Mere existence," Doyun countered, rising to face her. His voice carried the frustration of youth. "Living in holes and shadows, we were meant for more than just surviving. We were meant to thrive among the stars." Others joined the debate. Nova Terra's representatives spoke of resources and population growth. Engineers argued about ship capacity. Security personnel worried about defense capabilities. The argument grew heated until Tactical Officer Joyun entered the room, her face grave. She had been analyzing data recovered from various colony archives, looking for patterns. "Excuse me," she said, her quiet voice somehow cutting through the noise. "I've discovered something you all need to see." The room fell silent as Joyun activated the central display. It showed ancient diplomatic records, intercepted communications, and analysis of attack patterns during Earth's fall. "The attack on Earth wasn't unanimous," she explained, highlighting sections of the data. "A Valyrian faction called the Purifiers orchestrated our downfall because they feared our potential. But they weren't acting with full council authority." She brought up images of Valyrian script with translations. "According to these records, many Valyrian worlds objected to our elimination. Some even tried to warn us. The Purifiers silenced them and presented the attack as necessary peacekeeping." Captain Minho stepped forward. "What does this mean for us now?" Joyun's eyes met his. "It means we have potential allies. The Valyrian collective isn't unified in its stance toward humans, and the Purifiers still exist as a powerful faction, still hunting for human survivors." The room erupted in questions and exclamations. Ju watched as Subin and Doyun, who had been arguing moments before, now stood side by side, examining the evidence. "This changes everything," Subin admitted quietly. For the first time, the representatives from all colonies began to talk not about survival, but about justice. The broken chains of humanity were slowly being reforged, link by link. The Vindicator emerged from its final jump point at the edge of the solar system. Earth's sun looked different here, not a distant star, but a blazing sphere of light. Ju stood on the bridge with Captain Minho and the other colony representatives, staring at the view screen in silence. For all of them except the original crew, this was their first glimpse of humanity's birthplace. "I never thought I would see it," whispered Subin, her usual caution momentarily forgotten. Earth appeared as a small blue dot at first. As the Vindicator moved closer over the next 3 days, traveling at reduced speed to avoid detection, the planet grew larger on their screens. Soon, they could make out continents, oceans, and swirling cloud patterns. "It's beautiful," Do-Yun said, his voice catching. "And heavily guarded," Tactical Officer Jai-Yun added, bringing up a secondary display that showed the network of satellites and automated stations orbiting the planet. "The Valyrian blockade remains active. No ship has entered or left Earth's atmosphere in 2 centuries, according to our records." Captain Minho studied the tactical display carefully. The orbital grid was designed to detect and destroy any vessel attempting to approach or leave the planet. This explains why no one from Earth ever came looking for the colonies. "Can we break through?" Ju asked. Minho's face remained serious. "The Vindicator isn't just any ship. Its stealth systems were designed specifically to counter Valyrian detection methods." The bridge crew began preparations for their approach. Sora directed the engineering team to reroute power to the stealth systems. Weapons were prepared but kept offline to maintain their low profile. Jai-Yun plotted a course that would take them through the weakest points in the detection grid. "We'll need a sequence of 5 precision jumps," Minho explained to the representatives. "Each jump will last only seconds, and the timing must be perfect to avoid detection." The plan was risky. Each jump required the ship to briefly power down its stealth systems, making it visible to Valyrian sensors for a fraction of a second. If they detected a pattern, the automated defense systems would lock on. "All non-essential personnel, please return to your quarters," Sora announced over the ship-wide communication system. "Secure all loose items and prepare for emergency maneuvers." Ju returned to her cabin, but found she couldn't sit still. She made her way to the observation deck instead, wanting to see Earth with her own eyes, not through a view screen. Hyun joined her there, along with several others from Erebus. "The first jump will begin in 3 minutes, came Minho's voice over the speakers. Ju felt the ship hum as power shifted to the jump engines. The observation window automatically dimmed as the first jump initiated. There was a moment of disorientation, a brief flash, and suddenly Earth was much closer, a quarter of the distance gone in an instant. "Jump 1 complete. No alert detected," Jai-Yun reported. 4 more times the ship jumped, each bringing them closer to Earth. After the final jump, they found themselves in low orbit, hidden in the shadow of one of Earth's moons. "Atmospheric entry will begin in 10 minutes, Sora announced. "We've selected a landing zone in what was once called Korea, a peninsula in the eastern part of the largest continent. Scans show minimal Valyrian activity in that region." As the Vindicator descended, everyone gathered at the observation windows. The ship broke through cloud cover, revealing a landscape both familiar and strange. Where cities had once stood, forests now dominated. Rivers had changed course. Nature had reclaimed much of what humans had built. "It's healing," Subin observed quietly. They landed in a clearing surrounded by dense forest. Mountains rose in the distance, their shapes matching ancient maps of Korea. Captain Minho ordered atmospheric tests before opening the main hatches. "Air is breathable," Jai-Yun reported. "Radiation levels normal. No signs of toxins." A small team including Minho, Ju, Do-Yun, and Subin prepared to step onto Earth's surface. They carried scanning equipment and weapons, uncertain what they might find. The main hatch opened, and Earth's air rushed in, richer, heavier, and filled with scents none of them recognized. They descended the ramp slowly, each feeling the subtle difference in gravity. "It feels like home," Ju whispered, though she had never been here before. They had walked barely 50 meters from the ship when movement caught their attention. Figures emerged from the trees. Humans dressed in rough-woven clothing dyed in earth tones. They carried primitive weapons, bows, spears, and knives, but did not raise them threateningly. A woman stepped forward from the group. She was tall and lean, with scars on her exposed arms, and a necklace made of what looked like Valyrian tech components. "We saw your ship descend," she said in accented but clear speech. You came from the stars. Minho stepped forward. We are humans from the colonies. We thought Earth was under Valyrian control, that no one had survived. The woman smiled, a fierce, proud expression. We are the Earthbound. I am Yuna, leader of this clan. She gestured to the dozens of people now visible at the forest's edge. There are thousands of us, living in scattered settlements across the world. How? Subin asked, her voice filled with disbelief. The Valyrian bombardment was incomplete. Yunha finished for her. They thought they had destroyed all major population centers. But humans are difficult to eradicate. We learned to live beneath their notice, to move silently, to use the ruins as shelter. She looked up at the Vindicator, her eyes reflecting the ship's lights. We've waited generations for the stars to return our children to us. Yunha reached out slowly and touched Minho's uniform insignia. The old symbols. We kept them alive in our stories. The Valyrians don't know you're here, Do-hyun asked. They know someone is here, Yunha replied. Their probes come sometimes. We destroy them when we can, hide when we cannot. She gestured for them to follow. Come. Night approaches, and sometimes their scanners orbit overhead. We have much to tell you, and much to learn. As they walked into the forest, Jiwoo looked back at the Vindicator, a piece of humanity's past sitting on the soil of its origin world. For the first time, she truly understood what they were fighting for, not just survival, but the right to return home. The Vindicator remained hidden for 7 days while its crew met with the Earthbound. Yunha showed them underground chambers where her people had preserved human knowledge and technology. Most surprising were the defensive systems, ancient weapons platforms buried deep beneath the surface, powered down but maintained across generations. Our ancestors built them as Earth fell, Yunha explained as she led Minho and Jiwoo through a control center hidden inside a mountain. They never had a chance to use them fully. Hyun examined the old systems with wonder. These are incredible. With some updates from our ship's technology, they could be operational again. On the 8th day, alarms sounded throughout the Vindicator. Jiu was meeting with Earthbound leaders when Sora's voice came through her communicator. All personnel returned to the ship immediately. We've been detected. The bridge was tense when Jiu arrived. Tactical displays showed multiple ships entering Earth orbit. Detection vessels inbound, reported Tactical Officer Jai-yen, her fingers moving rapidly over her console. 3 Valyrian enforcers and a command ship. They'll reach our position in 20 minutes. Can we take off? Get back to space? Do-hyun asked. They would intercept us before we cleared the atmosphere, Minho said. He stood calmly, considering their options. We fight here. Activate the countermeasures. Sora nodded and began issuing orders. The Vindicator's weapon systems came online, their energy signatures carefully masked. Meanwhile, Yunha gathered her warriors. We've prepared for this day, she told Jiwoo. My people are activating the planetary defenses. We need time. The Valyrian ships entered the atmosphere like falling stars, bright against the blue sky. They moved in attack formation, scanning for the intruder that had breached their blockade. They haven't pinpointed our location yet, Joyem reported. Their scans are sweeping the region. Hold position, Minho ordered. Let them come closer. Minutes ticked by. The Valyrian ships dropped lower, their sleek forms now visible through the clouds. They were beautiful machines, gleaming silver against the sky, built for speed and precision strikes. They'd locked onto us, Jai-yan announced suddenly. Energy buildup detected. They're preparing to fire. Now, ordered Minho. The Vindicator's shields flared to life as it launched countermeasures, specialized drones that created false signals, confusing the Valyrian targeting systems. At the same time, Earthbound fighters activated their hidden weapons platforms. Beams of energy shot up from mountaintops and apparent ruins, striking the unprepared Valyrian ships. 2 smaller vessels were damaged immediately, their engines failing as they spiraled toward the ground. The command ship withdrew higher, calling for reinforcements. They're regrouping, Sora reported. More ships entering the atmosphere. Minho turned to Juwu. This is our chance. We need to broadcast the evidence. Let the entire collective hear the truth. Juwu nodded and hurried with Hyun to prepare the transmission. They compiled all they had discovered. The records of the Purifier's plot, testimony from the colonies, evidence of the Valyrian faction's lies. The battle intensified above them. The Vindicator took damage as it rose to engage the Valyrian ships directly, its older weapons still effective but overwhelmed by numbers. Earthbound defenses continued firing, but many were destroyed as the Valyrians identified their locations. Far from Earth, in the grand chambers of the Valyrian Council, the unexpected battle caused an uproar. The Purifier faction demanded immediate destruction of all human forces, while others called for investigation. This unauthorized attack must stop immediately, declared Councillor Xylos, an elder Valyrian known for his study of historical conflicts. We are firing on beings who have committed no aggression against us in 2 centuries. They are dangerous, insisted Councillor Vaz of the Purifiers. Their technology was never a threat to us, interrupted Xylos. The humans were condemned without proper evidence. I have studied the records of that time extensively. This exile was never justice. It was fear. Fear of their potential. Fear of change. The debate continued until an unexpected transmission broke through all Valyrian communication channels. The Vindicator, damaged but defiant, was broadcasting across all frequencies. Minho's face appeared on screens throughout Valyrian space. People of the collective. For 2 centuries, you have been told humans were dangerous, violent, unworthy of existence among you. Today we bring you truth. The transmission continued, showing evidence of the Purifier's deception, testimony from colony survivors, and finally, scenes of earthbound communities living peacefully despite their harsh conditions. We do not seek war, Minho concluded. We seek recognition, the right to exist, to reclaim our home, and to rejoin the galactic community as equals. The broadcast ended, but its impact was immediate. Common Valyrians, who had always been told humans were monsters, saw faces much like their own, heard words they understood. Questions arose. Protests began on some worlds. In the council chambers, Xylos stood. I move for an immediate ceasefire and diplomatic contact. The battle around Earth paused as orders came from the council. Valyrian ships withdrew to orbital positions, but did not leave. On the planet's surface, Juwu watched them retreat with disbelief. Is it over? She asked Minho as they stood outside the damaged Vindicator. The shooting is over, he replied. Now the real work begins. 3 months later, a formal delegation from the Valyrian Council landed on Earth. They met with representatives from all human settlements, the Earthbound, colony members, and the Vindicator's crew. After centuries of exile, humanity received its first official diplomatic recognition. The terms were cautious on both sides. Humans would be permitted to rebuild Earth and resume limited space travel. The colonies would be recognized as sovereign territories. In return, humans would share their unique technologies under controlled conditions and accept Valyrian observers. As the diplomats signed the agreements, Juwu stood with Yumna, watching the mix of humans and aliens talking cautiously together. Is this what you hoped for? Yumna asked. Juwu thought of Erebus, of the colonies, of all they had endured. It's a beginning, she said. Our exile is over, but our vigilance never will be. The Vindicator remained on Earth, a symbol of the journey that had brought humanity back from the edge of extinction. Its mission complete, it would soon become a monument. But its legacy would continue in the new ships already being designed, ships that would once again carry humans to the stars, not as fugitives, but as recognized members of the galactic community.